Good afternoon. I'm Carol Thompson Cole, President and CEO of VPP+Raise DC. We're glad to have you join us for the second program of our 20th anniversary speaker series. Thank you to each of our investors, board members, partners, friends, and guests who are joining us virtually. Today's program is about youthCONNECT at Suitland High School. I want to begin by describing how youthCONNECT was formed by highlighting Venture Philanthropy Partners' involvement with the Social Innovation Fund. The Social Innovation Fund, or SIF, was an initiative of the Obama administration to combine public and private resources to grow promising community-based solutions that have evidence of results in three priority areas: economic opportunity, healthy futures, and youth development. For VPP, the SIF helped us gain access to and mobilize funding from a broader network of investors to complement the federal dollars available. We applied those funds to collectively create youthCONNECT. The SIF enabled us to expand our portfolio of nonprofits while also helping them access new funding streams for programmatic improvements. youthCONNECT was developed to build a social safety net to help young people develop the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors needed to graduate from high school and succeed in post-secondary education and the workplace. It represents a true leverage model, bringing together public funds with private investors, foundations, and corporations to invest in proven programs to achieve stronger student outcomes. After sharing our success in a SIF celebration, former Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker invited us into the county to partner with the government and school system to build youthCONNECT into their Transforming Neighborhoods initiative. Today, we are grateful to have the leaders of our Suitland High School network partners with us to share their experiences. Hillside Works Scholarship Connection, Peer Forward, Urban Alliance, Year Up, and Latin American Youth Center, Maryland Multicultural Youth Centers. These organizations joined the network to improve the lives of youth ages 14 to 24 who were not attending school, not employed, or who were in jeopardy of becoming disconnected. While the missions of each organization are different, they acknowledge that their collaboration as a network is more powerful than working as siloed organizations. By integrating what each of these organizations does best through youthCONNECT, we dramatically accelerated the chances of success for the youth they serve. From school year 2015 through school year 2019-20, network-wide outputs and outcomes included 4,156 youth served by youthCONNECT. 148 youth were placed in employment that did not interfere with their schoolwork. 555 youth completed a professional resume or portfolio, and 877 youth completed the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. While our formal collaboration concluded last summer, during the 6-year investment period, the Ready for Work initiative, including youthCONNECT at Suitland and High Point, served over 8,000 young people and brought over $9 million additional dollars to Prince George's County in support of career and college-ready graduates. We are honored to have the former director of the Social Innovation Fund in the Obama administration, Michael Smith, moderate what is sure to be a dynamic and insightful conversation delving into the lessons learned as part of this network, the ongoing effects of COVID-19, and how the partners are contributing to school reopening efforts. Michael is a VPP+Raise DC Board Member, Executive Director of My Brother's Keeper Alliance, and Director of Youth Opportunity Programs of the Obama Foundation. And now I'd like to turn it over to Michael.
Thank you so much, Carol. I am excited to be here today. I'm excited for this conversation. First, because I do anything that Carol Thompson Cole tells me to do. I've learned that when I follow in her footsteps, I'm going to be in the right place. I am also excited about this conversation for our 20th anniversary speaker series, where we are going to have a moderated panel discussion with youthCONNECT at Suitland nonprofit leaders, where we are just seeing the incredible work that is happening with venture philanthropy partners and Raise DC and the extraordinary partners that we have the opportunity to work with across the region. As I've said, I've watched this work up close and personal. I have seen the powerful collaborations come together. I have seen folks work across sectors and across districts across this region to really transform lives and strengthen communities. So today you are in for a treat. You will hear from the leaders that are on the ground doing the hard work of bridging opportunity gaps and expanding opportunity for our children and their families. So no more preamble for me. Let me go ahead and get us right into the conversation and introduce you to the extraordinary panel that we will have today. First, you will hear from Karene Brodie, who is the Regional Executive Director of Hillside Work Scholarship Connect. You'll hear from Lupe Quinteros Grady, who is the President and CEO of Latin American Youth Center and Maryland Multicultural Youth Centers. You'll hear from Gary Linnen, who is the CEO of Peer Forward, Cornelius Williams, the Senior Program Manager and Implementation Specialist at Peer Forward, Shauna Smith, former CEO of Urban Alliance, Guylaine Juste, former Executive Director of the Year Up National Capital Region. So why don't I go ahead and start by asking each one of these extraordinary individuals to tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, a little bit about yourself, and why you joined this incredible partnership. Karene, let's start with you.
Thank you so much, Michael, and hello, happy to be with everyone today. My name is Karene Brodie. I'm the Regional Executive Director of the Hillside Work Scholarship Connection. And Hillside is largely a dropout prevention, or what I like to call in generative language, graduation promotion initiative that largely serves as a catalyst for middle and high school students in Prince George's County Public Schools who are facing barriers to success. And we leverage relationships and resources that help them stay in school, graduate with the skills and confidence they need to succeed in college, the workforce, and beyond. At the cornerstone of our model is a youth advocate, a full-time professional who serves as a mentor and a connector, transcending boundaries of homeschool and work for young people. Since our launch in 2008 here in Prince George's County, we've served over 8,500 students and families and just impacting them in the most critical of ways. And so I guess if you ask why I joined this partnership, I think it was meant to be. We had an opportunity to continue our investment as a existing portfolio member with VPP. And since we were in the traditional portfolio, the mission and vision of the Ready for Work initiative naturally aligned well with our priorities in broadening graduation, college, and career goals for students. We learned that the initiative was coming to Suitland High School, and especially since we were already there, we embraced the opportunity to participate. Through our experience with VPP, we had focused on organizational strengthening, inclusive of aspirational outputs and outcomes for young people. And so the entire collaboration was promising in providing tremendous value. I think it was also an opportunity to partner with other well-established, high-performing nonprofit partners, many of whom were quite familiar already. And so we've been able to leverage a lot of great opportunities in connecting services, whether it was Urban Alliance, in integrating pathways to CTE, career and tech ed, or Year Up in terms of post-secondary options for students with business focus who weren't necessarily attending a four-year institution, or LAYC, our partner in shared wraparound services, and certainly Peer Forward, empowering young people to actually apply the skills and knowledge that they learned from being in our program. So I think it was a wonderful synergy. And I also thought it was a great invitation to help partners coming into a new site not have to go through some of the hurdles and challenges of going into a new site and integrating your programming with a school climate. So I think collectively, there was a real value add more than anything else to be a part of this network, and we're pleased.
That's fantastic. It is so exciting. I can't wait to talk to you more about that incredible work. But let's move over to Lupi from Latin American Youth Center, LAYC. Lupi, tell us a little bit more about you, about LAYC, and why you decided to join this partnership.
Sure. So the Latin American Youth for 50 years, and it's been an anchor to our communities in the DC area. And it's been incredible just to see the growth and sort of LAYC's always willingness to evolve and change in responding to the needs of our communities. We got started in the, I would say, early 70s because the immigrant community was coming here from Central America due to war-torn countries that were happening in El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, and even the Caribbean at that time. And so that's how LAYC came to be. And we focus on youth, understanding that they have much potential. And then when they are given opportunities, access, resources, support, they can thrive. And our approach is using a positive youth development lens, knowing that we meet our young people where they're at, we create safe spaces, we work alongside with them so that they can work towards their goals. So that's the focus. But I was introduced to LAYC at the age of 14. I actually was a participant of the Summer Youth Employment Program, SYP. And my senior year, I was asked to come back and run the same program that I had participated. So here I am 23 years later, and 4 years this June, I will be the CEO. So it's an incredible journey so far. And, you know, one in which I think it's a testimony to a lot of our young people. I would have been that young person that low income, young person that migrated from El Salvador. I'm from El Salvador. And that basically a lot of the issues were around my parents not understanding how to help me navigate the education system, how to apply to college. So I was first generation to go to college. So I'm very, you know, just feel very honored to lead this organization and understand just firsthand just how important it is to give our young people opportunities. So of course, VPP played an incredible role when we actually looked to expanding our services in 2005 to Maryland, as we actually saw a lot of our families going to Maryland. So we actually grew out to Montgomery County and Prince George's County. So they actually gave us seed money, what I would reference since 2002, part of that traditional portfolio. And I'm so grateful that they did that they invested in that time, because it really set us up and positioned us to really take on other opportunities, similar to what Karene was mentioning earlier. So when the opportunity came to partner with other incredible organizations that I was very familiar with, that I had referred young people when I was a case manager to, of course, that made a lot of sense. The wraparound services, the community, connecting young people to resources and having them be the focus. I thought this was a win-win for our young people. So this is why LAYC definitely jumped at the opportunity to be a partner with VPP. And the investment since then, VPP probably invested around 1.2 million in LAYC. And I say that with a lot of gratitude, but also because this is the type of investment that's needed. As right now, a lot of the nonprofit sector has been pretty much been lifting or been the backbone to this pandemic, the nonprofit sector. And because of investments like what VPP has done in this particular, you know, it has set up a lot of organizations to already be in play, sort of, if you will, and be able to service their communities in a time where it's just been great needs and great demands.
Lupi, what a powerful story. I'm inspired. I'm fired up listening to you. You know, it means so much, I think, to have a CEO that looks like the folks that you're serving, but it means even more to know that you were a part of the effort, that it changed your life. You know, some of the older folks will get the reference. She's not only a spokesperson, she's a client. And so that's just so exciting to see you. I know that when we launched My Brother's Keeper at the White House, we actually had young men from Latin American Youth Center standing behind President Obama that were there for that historic day. And so I've had a chance to see the work up close and personal, and I am such a huge fan of the way that LAYC does the work that it does for our communities. So Lupi, thank you for being here today. Let's go over to Gary from Peer Forward. Gary, tell us a little bit about you, your organization, and why you decided to join this partnership.
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's great just to be a part of this STEAM panel with so many great colleagues. My name is Gary Linnen, CEO of Peer Forward. Peer Forward has been an organization that's been around for almost, and you'll see this with Cornelius' sign, for 25 years. We're marking our anniversary right now. And over the past 25 years, we've been really centered in what we believe is that a 17-year-old is more inclined to listen to another 17-year-old. And when you really put a young adult at the center of their own learning, you'll be surprised at all of the catalytic work that they can actually do. For the past 25 years, we've been primarily a college access organization, which really leverages influential individuals within the school community, where we train and mobilize them to be able to help their friends to be able to get into college. And VPP has been a longstanding partner of ours when we started in DC in a community center. And has been able to support us to the point where we're a national organization now serving over 80,000 students across the country. We also currently partner with every high school in PG County. That's why this was a natural synergy for us to be able to be a part of youthCONNECT and be able to do this great work. Because we do believe that, again, there are a lot of individuals that are in these school communities that are untapped resources, and we need to make sure that we're leveraging them. We believe in this model that students are not problems to be solved, they're problem solvers. And so when you start putting them in the driver's seats of their own destiny, then you're gonna see a lot of great returns in that. And that is, why we do what we do, and that's why we partner together with every organization that's up here. Cornelius can definitely speak a little bit more to the actual partnership on the ground and why we actually do the work, but it's been a natural synergy for us. How do we make sure that we're tapping into the largest asset within a respective building to make sure that they get in their peers to be able to have a post-secondary plan and succeed?
Gary, thanks so much. And look, I love the phrase, nothing about us without us. So I am so happy to see a young brother, Cornelius Williams, who's going to tell us a little bit about this work. And he's showing me up today because he is wearing a tie and I am not. Brother Cornelius, I haven't worn a tie in a year and a half. I don't even know how that would feel. So thank you for representing because you look so sharp. But let's hear about the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got involved, and how you see this work changing lives.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Cornelius Williams. I'm actually an alum of the Peer Forward program, year 2010. And so I was impacted by peer leaders in my high school, which encouraged me to go to college. And once I got out of college, I volunteered at a workshop and it was life-changing. And from that sense, being on a college campus, seeing those students being transformed in 4 days, it impacted the next 4 years of their life, which in turn impacted them for life. And so we have a terminology, 4 days, 4 years, for life. And it's something that we see every day on the ground. And so I had the opportunity to intern with Peer Forward in DC. So I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So I moved to DC and had the opportunity to work with these students and became a Peer Forward coach, where on the ground at Suitland High School specifically, we have the largest team in the nation. So the most trained student peer leaders in the nation sit at Suitland High School, where they impact their students and their friends every single day. And the work that we do is life-changing. It's something I tell the students every year after year is that if you can impact one student, right, their life and their choices, you can impact a generation, their entire family. That trajectory, you have the ability and power to change. And so just seeing that reward, seeing students light up when they see that they have that true power to impact someone's family is life-changing. And without VPP, I don't think the partnerships that we've been able to build on the ground at Suitland High School would have been possible. And so it's something that is dear and near to my heart that we even continue to this day to meet with these organizations and collaborate, because we are stronger together than separate. So the work that we do is life-changing and it's needed in every single community that we serve.
Thank you, Cornelius. You had so many incredible quotable quotes. I think you are going to be probably tweeted the most from this entire session. What was that saying you said at the beginning about the fours, the 3 4? Say that again.
So our motto is 4 days. You give us 4 days, that'll change your next 4 years, which will impact you for life. And so
I love that.
We have a 4-day workshop at a college campus in the community where students' lives are changed forever. And so that's what we live by.
I will remember that, and what a great way of packaging down such powerful work in a small way that we can all understand. Thank you, Cornelius. Let's go over to Sister Ashana Smith. Ashana, is the former CEO of Urban Alliance. I have seen Urban Alliance up close and personal as well. We work with Urban Alliance at the Obama Foundation. We have the extraordinary young people that participate in Urban Alliance that are still with us every day that have helped influence our work. So Shauna, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about Urban Alliance and why Urban Alliance decided to join this incredible partnership.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. It's wonderful to be with everybody today. It's great to see so many of my former colleagues. I'm the proud former CEO, as Michael said, of Urban Alliance, just recently stepped down after 8 years with the organization. And I want to just really honor VPP in this moment, not just for all of the great work that it has done on the ground and invested in, but also for, helping to create leaders and giving us opportunities. 20 years ago, I was a junior program officer at the Mariah Fund when Venture Philanthropy Partners was just getting started. And I remember all of the buzz and all of the, what is this VPP? How is this going to shift and change the landscape? And, congratulations to what you all have accomplished since then. And then I went on from there, did some time in city government, by which I was able to help create Raise DC, which is now housed at VPP. And, and then my ability to actually go and work at Urban Alliance came about because of the investment that VPP put into Urban Alliance to help them build their new national office when they were expanding to cities outside of the district where we were founded. And that gave me the opportunity to become Urban Alliance's very first president. So, all of this work is about obviously the clients and the constituents that we seek to serve, but it also has created this very rich ecosystem that many of us have benefited from both professionally and personally. So I just want to give gratitude to that and say that, I'm super grateful for that, for all of the opportunities. Urban Alliance has been around also for 25 years, founded here in DC in 1996, now able to serve about 5 different geographies, including 2 that are outside of the region, Chicago and Detroit. And what we do is our signature evidence-based model is our year-round internship program for high school seniors that really is focused on leveling the playing field when it comes to the world of work for young people, giving them early exposure to paid jobs that provide both the professional skills, the social and emotional learning skills, the social capital, and the networks that they need to be college and career ready and to be able to overcome much of the intergenerational poverty that many of our students face and be able to achieve long-term economic mobility. And we were founded here because students in DC said, at that time, back in 1996, you can imagine a very different DC, and they said, give me another reason to not go and do what I'm seeing my friends do on the corner, because right now school is offering me is not enough. And our founders, thank goodness, said, okay, what is it that you need? They listened to students. UA's first and foremost core value is students first. And the students said, we need jobs. And so our founders set about trying to find those jobs and insisted that those jobs were paid jobs and that they did not work for free. And that has been something that we have been, holding up and pushing forward for since 25 years now, as far as a year-round paid job where students can earn, close to $8,000 in their senior year of high school. The opportunity to work with these wonderful partners at Suitland, when it came, it was very clear to us for a number of reasons why we should be a part of this. Number one, at that time, especially, we were seeing a shift of, the poverty into the suburbs. We wanted to figure out how to expand our regional footprint so we could serve more students and help support them economically, skill-wise, post-high school success-wise. And so we really wanted to be able to serve students in Prince George's County. This gave us the opportunity to do that. It also gave us the opportunity to really think about our model, not just at the senior year level, but how can we help expose and serve and support students earlier on in their high school career and their high school trajectory? How could we get to them earlier? And what did we have in our toolkit, that we could offer in addition to the internship that would be meaningful and impactful and help towards the mission of long-term economic self-sufficiency. So all of those things came together, in addition to the fact that the idea of working collaboratively with these great organizations gave us the opportunity to practice this notion of, what do efficient handoffs look like when it comes to service delivery? Can we collaborate in a way to leverage the resources that we've been gratefully given most effectively? And can we create this sort of data-driven set of handoffs to really enhance one another's missions and to be able to provide our students with the, sort of utmost care and services. So that was very exciting to us. I think this group has done an amazing job in achieving that and demonstrating what can happen when collaboration is the focal point. And again, just want to say thank you to VPP and all of you, all of my peers, and I look forward to this conversation.
Ishana, thanks so much. And your career trajectory is also so inspiring. We could have a whole conversation just talking about your path. But I love this work so much. And I think if anybody sat down and thought about how they got to where they are now, some of those initial experiences, the chance that they were given, the opportunity to learn and grow. And I love this movement that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now about paying our interns. And I heard a member of Congress say, but they say all the time, but you get the experience. And she said, but experience doesn't pay the bills. And, our young people often have more challenges and more hurdles that they have to get through. So I love the transformative experiences and the way that you honor the young people that do the work that you do. So let's move to our next extraordinary leader. Our next leader was coaching me very, very diligently on making sure that I pronounced her name correctly before we got on here. So I want one more chance. It has made me regret not taking French when I was growing up, but I want one more chance and see what grade I get. So the former executive director of Europe National Capital Region is Madame Guylaine Juste. How's
Michael,
that?
You get an A++. Plus, I give you an extra plus because you have one of my favorite books on your shelf. Caste is a masterpiece. Yes, I do practice curiosity. I'm so glad it's no longer a bad term, but it actually is a skill that is sought after in business these days. And I think I say this to also say that we know that the problems are deep because they are rooted in a long history of disengaging people of color.
Yes.
And so I'll make a couple of points, just a little bit about me. I'm Guylaine Juste. I served as the executive director of Europe of Mid-Atlantic for about 5-6 years, and now am the CEO of NABA Inc. I think that I want to amplify points that several of my colleagues and now friends have made. With the most recent one with Ishana, is that we are deeply grateful to the investment of VPP because it was part of the youthCONNECT and the Suitland Ready to Work at Suitland High School. While it focused on program, it also gave a unique opportunity for senior leaders of color to collaborate and to learn from each other and to have safe space to each other. Every day I think, oh my God, I'm a Black woman in America that is a CEO now of a national organization. And that would not have happened without my colleagues on this panel with me and without the investment of VPP in my development, in the conversation, in the curiosity that Carol and Talika and the whole, and Chuck and Isaac and everyone had in exploring ideas and listening to, like, sometimes my crazy thoughts and sometimes my blunders. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful for that. I think sometimes we also must talk about outcomes that we're seeking to have. I have a unique perspective, if I could say it, is that I was born outside of the United States. And I went a path that several of the people we serve go. I went through a community college. So I have none of the elitism that sometimes, sort of like people in my current role have. But it is proof point that when people get the right guardrail and that people can collaborate over a period of time, wonderful stories. We hold America true to its ideals, because we must remember that America is an ideal, it's not a reality. And I think that I love the youthCONNECT and Ready to Work at Suitland, to the extent that I've been telling Adnaba that if I had money, I'd go buy the Fugu brand. It's for us, by us. We're not looking for people to come solve for us, but that creatively we've put together several pieces, and that it has created a continuum to where young people could find resources along a period of time to continue to advance, to be their best selves at the moment that they are in, with what they have available to them at that point in time. And this is this idea that sort of like that VPP had seeded, that allowed me to learn so much, that now allowed me to be sort of like the architect with a group of great leaders of the Talent for Tomorrow Alliance, which I'm pretty stoked. I think that's the word that the kids use now, that I'm pretty stoked about. And so I'll just want to be respectful of the 1 to 2 minutes, which my dear friends have kept to. And so I'll just leave that for more of the conversation. And so to VPP, to Carol, to the whole team, thank you for believing in us. Thank you for investing in us. And thank you for seeing beyond program to capacity building, because that is I think that is a really unique aspect of the VPP investment, is that they invest in leaders, they invest deeply in leaders of colors, because they actually believe that we must have really skilled bridge builders to continue to build the bridge. So thrilled to be sharing this space with you, Michael, and you get A++ on how you said my name. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Your words are reverberating, and I am so grateful for the way that you talked about this. America as an ideal, like we have to work for it. It doesn't just happen. I love the for us, by us. Damon John is a supporter of My Brother's Keeper, so I'll talk to him. Maybe there's some sort of deal that can be arranged. But
you can bring me to the room. I can sell. So
we'll bring you to the Shark Tank. And see if you can sell it. So thank you for the work that you're doing. So let's go into some deeper questions. I think when we talk a little bit more with the leaders that are gathered, we'll hear about the lessons that they've learned from this network. We'll hear about how they've navigated this past year. The word unprecedented is probably going to become Webster's dictionary word of the year and a half. But how have you dealt with COVID-19, with the disproportionate impact that have been faced for communities of color, the communities that we're serving, and then how the partners are contributing to the reopening efforts that we are starting to see more and more of every day. So let's go back to the beginning and let's talk to Karene. So Karene, Hillside is the only youthCONNECT partner that was already operating at Suitland High School before the program started. And I'm wondering if you could talk about some of the changes that you saw in the relationship between the school and the nonprofits from before youthCONNECT to this year. Karene?
Thanks, Michael. So yes, we were the only partner initially there at Suitland High School. And when we first learned that the network was coming, we were very ecstatic. I think one of the things that we were looking forward to was having company of high performance and a commitment to working with young people and families that pre-network was a little disjointed. There were partners at the school, but the level of communication was not necessarily fluid. The challenges in really knowing another program and how best to leverage its resources and services was definitely a challenge. I think oftentimes we perceive that we know that program over there, and we have a general surface awareness of what that program does and how they can deliver, and even how they can connect with the very families that we work with. I think we experienced in the network just a more intentional deep dive as to who are you really, where are the potential points of connection, and how might we collectively leverage impacting the broader school community. So not just the lane of service delivery for the mission and the students that your organization serves, but when we look at the data and it suggests that the attendance level for 9th graders coming on board is alarming in terms of second-year repeaters, and how do we address that collectively? I think there was a different strategic approach when we put all hands together. And I think the school embraced a network well over time. Being able to go to one place and engage us was different. Pre-network, we went to every school representative and we, sat in principal offices until they had time, either very early in the morning or at the very end of the day, to meet with us for a limited window because their workload was so enormous. I think when the network came in, we streamlined that engagement and that communication, and I think it benefited the school as well as each of the partners. We got a deeper exposure to data. We had more breadth and knowledge that was shared, not just amongst our partners, but with the school community. We were using shared language. We were doing data walks together. We were communicating in a way that you had a sense of investment and buy-in. And so I think since that time, it's been extraordinary that the network has continued in terms of engagement, collaboration, working together, and the connectors that we've been able to bridge with the other organizations. They have a lasting imprint on our young people because they get, I guess someone mentioned it before, a more seamless handoff from one resource to another. And it builds trust for that family or that young person who really needs to believe in a process that is designed to best support them.
Karene, thank you so much. Let's turn it over to Lupi. Lupi, you've chosen at LAYC to focus a lot and MMC or I'm getting that accurate now. MMYC. All right, we'll edit that out later, maybe, or not. We'll keep it in because it's real. So you chose to focus a whole lot at this moment about youth disconnection. And I know we were already, for the young people that we were serving, thinking about this group of opportunity youth that were disconnected from school and work, heavily more youth of color, more youth from low-income communities. So we already were struggling to make sure that our kids stayed on pathways to college, career, and beyond. And so during this moment, you chose to focus a little bit more on disconnection. And I'm wondering, what were you seeing at that time that made you focus and shift your focus, and how have you done that?
So I think, when we were at Suitland, we focused on our probatory pathway, which was an intensive case management, focus, and we saw a lot of things. And this is pre-pandemic, right? So you're seeing it housing, you're seeing attendance, you're seeing issues around learning. So now you have a pandemic in place, and so you can imagine how more challenging we and the nonprofit sector anticipated these issues that were going to be exacerbated for our youth. And what Karene mentioned around trust is really critical for our communities. Trust, having a sense of community. And so I think for me, it was an opportunity to really leverage some conversations with different leaders or leadership in this case, in Prince George's County school system, around just the concern or what we were seeing and being able to share information around food distribution, the need of food insecurity hit right away for our youth and families. And we serve about 5,000 youth approximately annually, and so in our universe, we were already reaching out aggressively. Like as soon as the pandemic, we gave orders like, just call, we need to understand where our families are, what are they, what is going on. Within 2 weeks, we knew food insecurity, followed by rent assistance. And so you had to really, couldn't do this work alone. So reaching out to different partners in the ways in which we were collaborating. An example was we were giving food or produce boxes one day and then coordinating that the school was doing it 2 days later so that would take that family that weekend where they would have food. The distance learning piece became another situation where we all knew once this hit, not everyone was going to have the devices and the internet and all of that. And similar to other nonprofits, we looked in-house, we reallocated budgets, but we also were able to coordinate efforts with the system and say, like, we have X number of students that did not quite get the memo because language is an issue. Can we really work with you? And they gave us laptops and we went and handed over those laptops and distributed to those families so that they could get connected to learning. But that really was just the beginning of understanding, like, there were going to be more challenges to come. And so the re-engagement piece became sort of an effort where Hillside, Urban Alliance, Community Youth Advance, and LAYC are coordinating efforts with Prince George's County looking at, we were given, Karene left, a roster of like 4,000 students that were disconnected, that we were going to work in partnership with the school and go find and really look at the data and go after it aggressively. And part of why, and it's been incredible, the relationships were there with the nonprofit. They had already been there through the Suitland. So when all of these partners came together, everyone rolled up their sleeves. It became very solution oriented. It became looking at how do we standardize, how do we coordinate efforts, how do we share best practices? And this is to the benefit for the young people. So I love like being part of this partnership that we currently have, because it's really putting our students first. And so we're able to share. Has there been challenges along the way? Karene will tell you, absolutely. But we are all learning together. And so we're actually being very successful understanding where our students are, because we wanted to know why are they not in school. And there's more to the story. If you are having a young person with suicide situation, we're intervening, we're connecting to counseling. We have families that they're not paying their rent out of a room, so they're about to get evicted. They're not thinking about going to school. So like we're seeing this reality that the school cannot handle on their own. And so as part of the different nonprofit sectors, as we're working together, we're wrapping our arms around our communities at this time, the best way we can with the resources that we have, and showing up and saying, we're here with you, you're not alone. And this has been happening for the last couple of months, and we're getting ready to do Gear Up 2, part 2 of this work. And so it's been an incredible journey, and I'm happy to be, with Karene and her team, and all of our staff have been coming together. Urban Alliance team, they're at the table, and so it's been incredible to just know that we can do things when we are doing it together and when we focus on our families.
Luby, thank you so much. There's that African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It sounds like you were able to go fast and far in this collaboration, and that's so powerful. I know a year ago, I sat talking to a lot of our nonprofit partners all over the country who were concerned not only about the disproportionate health impacts of the pandemic, but what did it mean for the economy? Would our organizations still be around, still surviving? And you know what? I saw so many organizations like yours and those that are on this call say, you know what? We will figure that out, but we're doubling down. We're not only continuing our core mission, but we are setting up mutual aid networks. We are feeding our families. We are delivering PPE. And in the same way that we saw folks come together and applaud our healthcare workers this summer, we need a day, or all this past year, we need a day where we applaud the organizations like yours that have just truly been there for our communities and were lifeboats and safety nets at a time that was truly, truly historically challenging. So thank you to all of you. Like every good conversation, we are running tight on time. So I'm going to move quickly to our next couple folks to some questions, and we'll make sure that we get tight answers. So Gary and Cornelius, let's go to you. And I know during the pandemic, the work that happened at Peer Forward, you shifted your programs online. You did a lot of intensive outreach work with your students. And I'm wondering if you saw any changes to the number of students who applied for college and or were completing the FAFSA online. What was the impact of that online shift? And Gary and or Cornelius, please feel free to take that question.
Yeah, I think we will all agree that, and this goes right back to what Luby and Karene were saying, where everybody's priorities shifted significantly, where college was not necessarily the focal point for individuals. It really dealt to what are the basic needs that individuals need. And so we saw that firsthand. And part of what we wanted to do, because we have, students on the ground who they know their friends that are not coming to school, they know the reasons why, we wanted to make sure that we provided some level of continuity for them. And so what we instituted as an organization, so a little bit about the organization as well. We historically at Suitland, and in partnership with Prince George's County, is we would have a class that was called the College Summit class, where there was actually curricula that individuals would be utilizing. Because that class now has been disrupted, we wanted to make sure that we leverage the young adults, our peer leaders on the ground, to say, hey, how do we then get them to go out into their communities as well to get that information that they need to their friends. We're finding nationally that the college enrollment rates dropped by 30% for the class of 2020. And we know that that was a significant challenge. So us as an organization, very similar to what everyone else is saying, it's that we had to say, what is the one thing they need today? And for us, we said they needed some level of continuity. So we started having consistent meetings because teachers were trying to figure out what their schedules are going to look like. Schools were trying to figure out how they're going to get, resources, laptops, and everything else to everybody else. And so we was like, how can we be an advocate and an asset for them? And that was just by setting up, systemic meetings, partnering with Prince George's County and leveraging the Wednesdays to really let our peer leaders reach out to everybody else and disseminate the information that everybody else on youthCONNECT was actually talking about. So whether it's on Wednesdays, we're giving out food, we were able to leverage our young adults to get that information out to them. And Cornelius, I'm sure can talk a little bit more about that piece, but FAFSA was hit tremendously. I will say that while for FAFSA completion rates, it was down 12% by December. For peer forward schools in partnership and what we're seeing at Suitland, it was only down by 6%. So while it's not the best, it was still better then. And that's because we leveraged all the partnerships. Everybody rolled up their sleeves to make things happen.
Cornelius, do you want to add anything?
The only thing I would add to that is that collaboration with other organizations within youthCONNECT has been a tremendous help to stopping the dramatic fall in FAFSA. And with the peer leaders on the ground, they made it their goal to have virtual FAFSA nights that they hosted because there was a issue with students getting to school, the COVID-19 pandemic. Hosting virtual events and engagement was a challenge. And so what they did was advocate for gift cards and different incentives to get people on the Zoom call because they knew how important the FAFSA was. And so just kudos to the advisors at Suitland, administrators, and also peer leaders on being able to what we call activate the youth. And so the youth were being at the table, able to talk about and get those students to the table for FAFSA, which is very important in enrolling in the fall. And so only thing I'll add about FAFSA and college application. But one more thing, a lot of students this year have also moved towards the community college route. And so having that opportunity, having that option, that mindset to look at all of your options before you decide on where you're going to college. And fortunately, a lot of them did choose to go to Prince George's Community College, which is a great option, being that the state of Maryland does offer those different scholarships for them. And so that was a huge benefit in this time of the pandemic.
Cornelius, thank you so much for that. Ashana, let's come to you. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what were the changing needs that you saw for the young people that you were serving during this past year and how you worked to meet those changing needs.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of my colleagues have talked about the first pivot, of course, was basic needs. Like everything was about, are they eating? Are they safe? Do they have shelter? So everything sort of pivoted to that right away. And we created an emergency student support fund so that we could have some extra monies for those kinds of needs. Also, lots of our students, because we deal primarily with seniors, were seeing their college plans get disrupted and not happening. So could we help with tuition payments or payments for next year and those kinds of things. So we pivoted just like everyone else, really to the basic needs, which rose to the top for our students. And right under that was trying to save as many paychecks as possible. Obviously, the pandemic was coupled with an economic recession. And so we wanted to make sure that all of our students had the money in their pockets, had their paychecks. 80% of our students use their paychecks to support their household expenses. So that became critical for us. And of course, as you can imagine, employers were closing their doors and dropping interns and dropping anything that wasn't deemed a necessity, that might have been deemed an extra or a bonus or something cool or fun. So we were, going really, really hard with our employers saying, don't shut this down, keep these students working. We want them to be earning and learning in this time. So that's kind of what our quick pivot was. And then, to some of the, your question about what the changing needs were, obviously we had to look at the internet and the digital divide issues. All of our internships very quickly switched to being remote. All of our internships this past year have been remote for the whole entire school year. So you have to make sure that everybody has the proper equipment to be able to do their internships virtually. So we also had some great and generous donors who stepped up and donated laptops and donated different internet and things like that. And so that's what we really needed to focus on, as well as how we're gonna make sure that all 500 of our interns have their digital capabilities in check. We also dealt with things, obviously everyone has seen this, where whole families are sharing one device. So how do we make sure we can supply those devices? The difficulty of distance learning, obviously, how do we make it engaging? How do we make it interactive? One positive I will say, Michael, is that, it was a little bit, I think, easier to kind of get employers to, everyone wanted to lean in. You could do this from your kitchen table or from your living room, check in and mentor a young person, check in and talk about, your career trajectory. So we were able to leverage that and keep those employer conversations going. But there was still the difficulty of distance learning. What does that mean? What does that look like? The fatigue around it. So that was something we also saw. Obviously, the disruption and interruption to post-high school plans, which I mentioned. And then our seniors losing their social lives, having to, pick up extra work to support their families. And, what happens is, if I got you what I think is a great internship at Coca-Cola. But if Cricket Mobile or someone up the street is paying a couple dollars more and you need that, that's where you're going to go. And maybe when you go there, which I totally understand, you don't then get all the wraparound services that Urban Alliance can offer, right? You don't get all of the potentially the additional skills training and things like that. So we had to battle with that as well, Michael. I think that right after, and then the next layer after that, just bringing it a little bit more closer home with Suitland, because at Suitland, we actually, mostly what we do is provide our workforce readiness curriculum to students. And we have some of the students in the internship program, but most of them get the workforce readiness curriculum. So the good news there is that we were able to use technology to offer actually more workshops, open it up to more of the school, add some on financial capability and resume writing, make them drop in and that kind of thing. So we were able to have some positives there. The last thing I'll say generally about pivoting and bringing it back to this group is that I am really, I think a good point to lift up again is the fact that, because the infrastructure was there that this group created at Suitland in terms of the collaboration, we were able to, respond to the call to help Prince George's County Public Schools with the reconnection effort. And that is not something that Urban Alliance does, but we looked to our peers and said, what's the best way we can lean in and still be on mission to help with this? And we were actually able to get some of our alumni hired to help with the reconnection effort. So we, sort of got a twofer where many of our alumni who no longer had their jobs, we were able to get them hired as part of this reconnection effort and be able to learn from LAYC and others about how you do this deep reconnection work. So there's just been lots of ups and downs. Again, I think this work is hard, these jobs are hard, and it's better to do it with everybody together. And so again, grateful for this network.
Well, I think the moral of what you said there is the moment came and you met the moment. I think there's a whole other conversation that we can have about how, as a leader, do you make sure you're ready for when the moment comes. I also think there's a sermon in there if there's a preacher watching, like being ready to meet the moment. So take that. That might be in one of your Sunday sermons coming up. Let's close out with Guylaine. And I want to talk to you about this idea that you've switched. You're on the other side. You're now in an industry with the National Association of Black Accountants. And I wonder, what is your perspective on this work now that you're on the other side of the fence?
The work continues, right? I think one of the things that COVID has done, as one who practices gratitude, we find we find a reason to say thank you in everything. And one of the things that I think we must be grateful for the COVID crisis is that it has laid bare what all of us on the screen knew as the reality of lives of people of color that have become evident, be it because people were at home and able to watch in real time what's happening in communities of colors and the reporting around health crisis. And so for me, I don't consider that I'm back in industry. NABA is still a 501c3. And we just finished our strategy in renaming launch. We don't have a new name yet. We're working with a brand, so that, brand agency. So more to come on that. Hopefully you'll invite me again. So for me, I see that the work continues, but what we've learned at youthCONNECT and with Suitland is actually the basis of our new strategy. We just want to put it on a national platform. And so for us, we really are trying to explore how might we, again, in design thinking, create learn and earn models that allow people to collaborate to advance learning and knowledge for people, but from high school all the way to the C-suite, right? I'm particularly interested, the reason this job, I made the switch, is because I'm particularly interested in representation in higher level in our country, right? I mean, I don't know if many of you have seen the last report from McKinsey, who says that we've got 4 CEOs, Black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And when Mr. Fraser retires in December, we'll be back down to 3. And he's being replaced by a white man, which means that where's the succession planning, right? How are we advancing this work? And what McKinsey was saying is that at parity, we should have 60 Black CEOs of Fortune 500 in this country. And if we peeled the onion, if we had more time, Michael, I'm going to try to help you make a little bit of time here. But if we had more time, we could begin to talk about the state of CFOs, right? We're particularly focused on the field of finance for Black people, because we know that this is a big, big piece. And so we are also looking at moving, I'll give you all an early read into some of the work we want to do, is to move professionals out of the dialogue of financial literacy, which is really important, to a concept that we want to own on our platform, which is the concept of financial fluency, right? We want Black people to understand what equity is. We want people to understand how they create value for companies and how they keep value for themselves. We want Black people to aspire and know that we provide a platform, the tools, the resources, the network, the connection to begin to create generational wealth for themselves, for their families, for their communities, so that we can stop being dependent on what people think they're giving to us, as opposed to, again, the ideals of our democracy, to hold America true to the ideal of our democracy, which is the land of opportunity, where it forgets often for all. And so that's the work that I am taking forward with me. I have learned a ton in all of these ideas from my candidacy, because I've only been at the seat for 90 days, although, my board would tell you it feels like I've taken the organization in a whirlwind. I know those of you who know me are not surprised at all. It feels like 90 years already. And so, but the idea is that all of those ideas from the onset of my candidacy for this role to what we've already accomplished and what we're trying to create have been born out of what can happen when people partner, when people collaborate, and what particularly when we are committed to the same cause, that we stop to look at my slice, my piece, my competition, but then open up ourselves to mentality of abundance and not mentality of scarcities, and try to figure out what problems, big problems, deep problems, rooted problems that we can start to tackle together. That has been just really the highlight of my week, to share this panel with all of you and to meet you, Michael. I hope we'll have the opportunity to partner in the future. I hope that our work together with this great group of colleagues will continue. I invite you on our platform. We're doing some exciting things, so come check us out, and I hope we can stay in touch. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for that. I said that some pastor might find a sermon topic, but then we just had the Reverend Guylaine come and close us out. So we just had the altar call, the benediction, whatever you want to call it from your faith tradition. So those were some powerful, moving words that I'm going to be reflecting on. We are about out of time, but I want to give all of our panelists 30 seconds to provide an action item. And I'll give you 2 prompts. It could either be talking to your peers who are thinking about how to make networked work. What is your one final piece of advice for them? Or it could be a call to action to other funders or to policymakers. What do organizations like yours need in this moment so we can make sure that we are not just addressing wounds, but we are helping our communities and our children thrive? So again, 30 seconds, because we don't have that much time. It's like the airplane doors are about to close and you've got to get that final word in. So let's go to the top and start with Karene.
Michael, I feel very set up having to follow Guy in that very wonderful testimony that I'm sure we all agree needed to be said. So thank you for that message. I think my short answers in response to your question would be, long-term investments yield high trust and dependability, and they encourage thoughtful growth. They encourage us to learn to what I call actualize as a group. So we had to evolve in a, sort of forming, storming, norming, and then performing kind of process to get to an understanding of how we could best leverage the work. And our teams were more innovative in reaching across different organizations quite organically. Had we tried to structure that as leaders, we would have stayed in a very high level of visioning and theory, which would have been great, but it needed to connect with the ground and the realities of where the site was, the knowledge of the people on the ground and what their needs were, and then the shared information exchange that is invaluable to any process moving forward. And a rising tide floats all boats in the effort of a partnership benefiting an entire community. So I think a long-term investment, if I have such short time, is the most poignant piece I'd like to make. And VPP has really modeled the epitome of deep investment, long-term sustainability, and really intrusive and disruptive growth that benefits all organizations in the future.
Thank you, Karene. Loopy, the airplane door is closing. Give me your call to action.
Sure. I was just saying that you said a key comment about the moment, responding to the moment now. The moment still continues. And I just want to make sure the policymakers have nonprofits at the table, that they learn and that they take the time to learn from what we've experienced in the last year and some change, because our families are still going through it. And I'll just, pitch that, that while we see the end, while we see some light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine, the families that we're working, the economic hardship, it's as if nothing has moved. So I just want that to be a reality that is kept in mind, because much work is to be done.
Thank you so much, Loopy. Gary and Cornelius, your final word.
If there's a sense of urgency, if there was ever a time for you to pay attention to what youth are doing, it's now. So we need to invest in our youth. We need to make sure that they're at the center of every decision that's to be had when it comes to their own journey. You need to start making long-term investments so we can make sure that happens.
Thank you, Gary. Add a word to Cornelius.
Yes, advice to peers on building that network. Find individuals, find organizations, find students in your school, in your community that have the same mission. And if it's a different mission, find and see ways in which you all can work together, because that's the goal. It's for the students to better the lives of them for the future. So it can be done. Thank you, Cornelius. Ashana, they're about to take off.
My advice or call to action is for the philanthropic sector and for my peers. What are we doing to systematically and structurally get the next generation of leaders that look like us, that are proximate to do this work? It's hard, it's tough, but it is so important, and we need more folks that look like us and that have experienced these issues to do that work. So what are we all doing?
Thank you, Ashana. And now let's close out with the Right Reverend Dr. Bishop Guylaine St. Juste.
Invest in capacity building, data, data, data.
Thank you so much, everyone. Wherever you are, stand on your feet if you're in your living room or if you're in your remote office, and join me in giving a really big round of applause to these extraordinary servant leaders who are truly changing and saving lives. Wow, I don't know about you, but I am feeling fired up and ready to go, as we would say in Obama land. What an impressive group of leaders, so much to learn. You know, a lot of the work that we do at the Obama Foundation is about preparing the next generation of leaders who can change the world. And we saw on our virtual stage today leaders that are changing the world, but we also saw the important work that remains to make sure that this country is going to benefit from all of the unique talents of the next generation that is coming along. So to close us out, it's my honor to introduce my colleague from Venture Philanthropy Partners and Raise DC, Taleka Brooks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taleka Brooks, and I'm a partner here at VPP+Raise DC on the team that sources and manages our investments and collective impact networks. I am happy to bring closing remarks on what has been an amazing investment in the career and college readiness of youth in Prince George's County. 4 of the organizations in youthCONNECT were previous investment partners during VPP's first fund. While we had expanded the reach and capacity of those organizations in that first fund, we knew that it would require collaboration across organizations to create change in the lives of young people and move the needle on aggregate outcomes. I hope that this panel has shown you that this was successful. Not only did each nonprofit individually perform great work, by working together, they leveraged each other and their knowledge of each other's programs to form a safety net for the youth at Suitland High School and provided them with the support they needed to succeed and achieve better outcomes. In her opening remarks, Carol highlighted several network-wide outputs and outcomes as a result of this investment. And over the summer, we will release a series of reports that describe observed changes in student, school, and district level outcomes. Please follow VPP+Raise DC across social media to be notified of each release. We had in-school directors at High Point and Suitland High School that were inside the school during each day, Sterling Burke and Shantia Lowe, to help the nonprofits and school communities navigate and work with each other during the school day and beyond. The rest of us saw the fruits of this work every single time we were at Suitland and High Point High Schools, and deeply appreciate the true commitment each of these nonprofits had to the children and youth of the county. In fact, youthCONNECT was so successful that these nonprofits now use these relationships to create new collaborations that provide even more positive outcomes for children and youth in our region. Our investments in building their capacity set them up to respond to the challenges our children and youth are now facing during the pandemic. When we developed youthCONNECT, Raise DC was building their model for collective impact. We built from the bottom up while they built from the top down. Now that we have integrated both organizations, we are bringing the two approaches together to make change across the whole ecosystem. We are stronger together than apart. Thank you for your participation today. We hope that you were as inspired as we have been by this work.